What's up, family? It's your man, Mark Black. So, I wanted to come and do a bit of discussion on the topic of the Nate Parker revisiting of his case, as well as the ramifications or possible ramifications on the release of A Birth of a Nation. Um, I wanted to make my statement after kind of listening to other people's statements, reading social media, and things like that, because a situation such as this has a lot of gravity attached to it, okay? It has a lot of people's different experiences, whether as the perpetrator or accused or alleged perpetrators of sexual assault, or as a victim of sexual assault. A lot of people have introduced their own individual experiences into it. I have my own experiences that I will share, and we will have us a quick discussion about this. First of all, I want to say that anyone who's been victimized or been alleged to have victimized somebody and subsequently found innocent or whatever, I want to let you know that I empathize with you both. Um, the fact is that I have no desire whatsoever to see someone's experience being discounted or their character maligned. I do understand that because of the gravity of the accusation of sexual assault, rape, molestation, that when those people who are accused of such things have to engage in certain behaviors or make certain statements to protect themselves, to ensure that they're communicating effectively their innocence in the matter. I understand that those things need to occur, and those things aren't pleasant. Things get said in trials, things get said in depositions and statements that one or the other party can consider to be detrimental, considered to be something that is maligning to them and their character, and to be judgmental. And these things are never easy to deal with. So I want to acknowledge that I empathize with both groups. I empathize with the need to be able to have your experience. If you've been a victim of such an incident, you need to have your experience validated. And I understand that, and I empathize with that. If you have been accused of such a crime and you feel with all of your heart of hearts that you are innocent and you know this didn't occur, there are actions that you have to take and statements that you need to make in protection of yourself that are not pleasant to make, that can seem cold, callous, etc. So in a way, you kind of lose even if you win. And I empathize with that too as well. I was molested as a boy by my piano teacher. I was about 7 years old when, 7 to 8 years old when these incidents occurred. So I myself have been victimized, by sexual molestation. Um, I have been able to make a healing of it, but not everyone can, right? So I get, that people are wounded, that they get hurt by these incidents. Okay, so right off the bat, I just wanted to announce that I share your concerns. I offer empathy myself for your situation, regardless of which side of the line you find yourself on. Okay, the first thing that I want to look at, and I think this is probably the most obvious thing, but in all of our anger, our hot words, hot blood that we get around circumstances such as these, details like this kind of seem to slip by the wayside, or they're dismissed when they should not be. And one of those most important details that I'm noticing a lot is getting dismissed by discussions of this in social media is the timing of this revisiting, this retrial of Nate Parker in the media. The timing is definitely important, right? When Nate Parker, was in previous films, this information was available to anyone who had the desire to search for it. So why then all of a sudden do we have now the desire to revisit and retry this case in the court of public opinion? That's my first and most obvious question. What what is the timing? Why is this the time to discuss this? Who gains and who loses at this point from a discussion of this incident where he was alleged to have victimized or raped this woman? Along with the timing piece, we need to get back on the understanding that yes, he was acquitted. Now, I know that people have made different objections to this, and I wanted to address one. The idea that, well, just because the criminal justice system acquitted him doesn't mean he didn't do it, right? The criminal justice system acquitted George Zimmerman. Well, we still all argue that George Zimmerman committed the offense that he committed against Trayvon. I wanted to address this because I think that we're comparing a bit apples to oranges, okay? First of all, George Zimmerman is a white Latino, okay? He's a white man, a pale man. Now, we already know that the system overall, not all the time, but overall is going to be more likely to side with, to aid and abet the criminal activity of pale people, especially against people of color, in general, and black people specifically, okay? But to compare that with Nate Parker's case is like night and day. Nate Parker was accused of rape. Okay, we have seen entire communities of ours burned to the ground simply on the accusation of rape. We're not even talking about an actual trial having taken place and a conviction. We're talking about just the accusation has been enough to watch many of us swing from trees or have our faces blown off by pale people. Okay? The likelihood, and again, we need to, not to say that each brother or sister, because women rape too, right? But it's not to say that each black person that is being tried or being accused of a sexual assault is guilty, or not, is not guilty, right? We know people fucking commit this offense. Males and females are both perpetrators and victims of rape in our society. This isn't a black thing. This is an American thing, okay? Rape fucking happens. Sexual assault happens. And it happens more often than a lot of us would care to admit. So let's keep that 100. So it's not that all of them are not guilty. But I can say for a certainty that we cannot divorce the fact of charging black people, black males specifically, with sexual crimes. We can't divorce each individual case from the history under which we find ourselves living. The fact is that black males in the same situation that you would find a white male would be more likely to be charged with a criminal sexual assault or rape than the white male. When he is charged, he's going to be more likely to be convicted of that charge than a pale male would be. Okay? So we need to examine the real likelihood that Nate Parker would be acquitted if he actually did not do this. Okay? We need to look at that. And that's a question that we need to revisit going forward if we're going to keep rehashing this case in the court of public opinion anyway. The next thing I want to talk about is I want to have us a discussion about the role of intoxication on one's capability to consent, or something that isn't talked about, their responsibility for actions. So let me pose the discussion here first. It is said, and I would agree, that if a person is intoxicated, right, too intoxicated to really function properly and normally, that they lose in some degree their capability to consent. In other words, brothers, sisters, if your dude or the girl you trying to get with is drunk, you probably should not be getting with them. If they high, they can't really consent. Even if you think they want to, even if they telling you they want to, they're not in their right mind. Protect yourself. Stay away from having sexual encounters with people who really are not in their right mind at the point to be able to actually give consent, okay? But I want to look at this from another point of view. We all know that I could go out right now, get high as a kite, smoke a joint, okay? And somebody laced that joint with some wet, right? So I'm wetted out, right? I'm danked out right now. And I go out and I commit an offense. I can't go into court and argue, well, Your Honor, I was intoxicated. I was inebriated. I wasn't in control. I wasn't in my right mind and thus should not be held responsible. No, they will convict my black ass and I will be locked in whatever particular jail they find a place to put me. Okay? So I want us to start asking the question or having a discussion where we can agree that someone who is intoxicated should not be considered to have given consent. But how much responsibility should we be laying on people who are also intoxicated for their actions or acts that they commit? We haven't even asked the question, what was Nate's level of intoxication during this encounter with this young woman? We haven't asked that question. You know why? Because it doesn't seem to matter. Regardless of whether or not Nate was 3 sheets to the wind or danked out on some bomb ass chronic, it doesn't matter. He's still considered responsible for what he did, yet her intoxication removes her capability for her to consent to what allegedly happened to her. This is a strange and really twisted double standard that we need to really take a look at. The last thing that I want to discuss in this video is we need to get past something. What we do, unfortunately, as Black people, and it only works out to our detriment, is we continually make the perfect the enemy of the good enough. All right? I'm going to define that statement here for you. This is what I mean by this. You can have a brother or sister who steps forward in defense of, support of, leadership of our people. Okay, they put forth efforts. They put in the work. They got the receipts. But if we look hard enough into their background, they have something that we can ostensibly use to disqualify them from the position that they've stood up and taken. For example, we've got brothers and sisters who are married or dating pale people. And that's, for a lot of us, an automatic disqualifier for ever jumping up and speaking out and doing things and working on behalf of the family, right? We have brothers and sisters who have been alleged or actually have been convicted of very horrible criminal offenses. Now, never mind the fact that one could serve one's time, pay one's penalty, and have a complete sea change in how they see things, become woke, and start being one of the strongest advocates for our people that could possibly exist. That doesn't matter. We would use their previous horrible act as a means by which to disqualify any future work or any future efforts that they might make. We will act as if the only acceptable leaders, trendsetters, people who could be out front are ones who, from the moment they've drawn their first breath on this planet, have only been 100% pro-Black in everything that they've done. Which, by the way, in case you haven't checked, family, there's no one in the diaspora who meets that standard. Look, you can have a pale mate, right? You could be working right now to help white supremacy make trillions of dollars a year on the corporate plantation. If you live under this system of whiteism, none of us escape unscathed. Not a one. There is something that all of us has had to give up, do, be, say, that we would not normally do, be, or say if we were free to be otherwise. If you live under whiteism, you have cooned. If you live under whiteism, you have done something to support whiteism. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. The very fact that we all still as a collective exist under whiteism means that there's not enough of us that do things that are anti-whiteism, right? We support this system in various ways. Not a one of us is going to be perfect enough to ever step up and say, I'm super pro-Black. I have never done anything that is in any way supportive of the pale people. And we have to get past that. We have to. Look, whether you think Nate did this thing or not, okay? Whether you think Nate did this thing or not, I want to ask you a question. Is there anything that is bigger than the individual person who may be the vehicle? In other words, Nate is the vehicle for a birth of a nation, right? It was his creation. He marshaled it. It was his baby. He husbanded it, and he brought it to us. And now in October, we will have the chance to see on the big screen a feature film with our ancestor, our hallowed, respected, honored ancestor, Nat Turner, on the big screen. This will be available to people who would never even crack open a book to read about the brother, okay? Let's say Nate did it. Okay? At what point do we say to ourselves, regardless of my own personal experience, because remember, I'm a victim of sexual impropriety, of sexual assault, of molestation myself, okay? At what point, though, do I say that regardless of my personal experience, my personal repugnance or reticence to support a particular individual, that some things, some situations are bigger than me? They are more important than my own personal feelings about shit. At what point do we actually address that, family? Because look, living under whiteism is going to always present us with the idea of having to support the damn nearly unsupportable. I'm sorry if you don't like it. I'm sorry if you still think that we should all have rainbows in the sky with pink unicorns flying around and gold falling out of our ass. That's not the truth of the situation. If you live under whiteism, of 90% of the challenges that we face living under whiteism is having to try to find a way sometimes to support the damn nearly unsupportable. That's a decision that if it's not Nate Parker in this movie, you're going to be presented with again and again and again under this society. And we need to stop trying to make the perfect be the enemy of the good enough. We don't need fucking perfection for freedom, family. What we need is a bunch of people who are good enough that in spite of their flaws, in spite of the crap that they've done underneath the system of whiteism, in spite of the bad choices that they've made, have stood up in defense of, support of, and fighting for the liberation of the black nation in the diaspora and in the motherland. So that's all I wanted to say, family. I hope that I've been able to address this in an effective fashion. I did try to keep the heat down, try to keep the profanity down, because I really wanted you guys to hear this message. And so if you have anything you'd like to add, please make sure to leave comments in the comment section below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Share it with everybody. It's one person's viewpoint, but if you like what I had to say, please share it. And if you have not already done so, subscribe to my channel. And until next time, love, peace, prosperity, and real power to my people.